governor prediction as of today, June 14th of 2022. So let's get right into today's video. Now, starting with the safe states on both parties, we have California, Hawaii, the state of New York, the state of Massachusetts, and the state of Maryland going into the safe Democratic column. We do have the states of Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and the state of South Carolina, as well as the state of Alaska, the state of Vermont, and the state of New Hampshire going to the safe Republican column, which leaves out 19 states still in the toss-up column. Some races are obviously more competitive than others, but we're going to get into the likely states right now. For the likely Democratic states, Oregon, I think it's going to be in the single digits, about 7 to 8 points, but I think Kate Brown should be able to hold on. She won in 2018 by a pretty small margin of 8.6, actually 6.4 points. Going back to 2014, it was another Democratic incumbent. She won by 5.8 points, but that was a much worse Democratic environment for the Democratic Party. So Oregon has been likely for the last, I think, couple of elections at the governor's level. It was tilt back in 2010, but that was also a very poor Democratic performance just nationwide. So I'm going to put it as likely right now for the Democratic Party, as well as that the state of Colorado. Jared Polis is still a pretty good incumbent. I think he'll be able to win by about a similar margin as Kate Brown, maybe slightly lower, maybe slightly higher. Illinois as well, I think about a 8 or 9, about a 10% win for J.B. Pritzker. J.B. Pritzker is not the most popular incumbent, but I think that Illinois is Illinois. Even a red wave, it will be a likely Democratic state. As well as that, I do think Rhode Island will be a likely Democratic state. The incumbent there last time won by 15.5 percentage points in a Democratic wave, so he is likely going to lose in a Republican. And he is likely going to have his margin decrease to about 10 to 12 points in a not so favorable Democratic environment. So next, so for the likely states for the Republican Party, starting with the state of Kansas. Kansas, the Republicans obviously going to win this race. The reason it's not safe is that there's actually a Democratic incumbent there who won by a margin of 5.03 points against Chris Kobach. Now, there were many reasons why Chris Kobach did very poorly in this race. Number one, he was a very, very unpopular Republican candidate. He only won by 100 votes in the primary, believe it or not. It was an extremely tight primary. By vote-wise, it was tighter than Pennsylvania Senate primary, which was decided by less than 1,000 votes. Greg Orman, also a conservative candidate, took away 6.5% of the vote that would have likely went to Kobach if he was not in the race, and the Libertarian also took away almost 2% of the vote as well. So, given all that those factors, it shouldn't be surprising that Laura Kelly will lose re-election. Greg Abbott, in 2018, won by a margin of 13.3%. Beto O'Rourke is a decent candidate. He was able to narrow down the Senate race to about 2 percentage points, but this race will still not be competitive, not be super competitive, nonetheless, given the national environment, and just given that Beto O'Rourke has swung more left wing on issues such as guns, which will undoubtedly hurt him in a state like Texas. Florida, Ron DeSantis is a very popular incumbent there. Iowa, it's a pretty Republican state. Kim Reynolds only won by 2.7 percentage points, but again, she's not right now going to do much better in a race here, considering that now she has more name recognition, and back in 2014 there was a different candidate, so she was not the incumbent. Now as an incumbent advantage, she should be able to win by a likely margin. Mike DeWine also won that primary by a pretty decent margin, so DeWine is likely still going to win his race by a likely margin. The final state that I will go and give to the Republican Party by a likely margin may surprise you, and that will give the Republicans 26 seats, being the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin right now, Tony Evers is just not very popular. He won his last election by a margin of 1.1 percentage points in a national environment that was D+8, and I think a lot of things went right for him, and Wisconsin has been trending Republican ever since about 2006. Somewhere around that ballpark, it has been trending Republican. So considering all those factors, Tony Evers just isn't going to win re-election. Now going to the lean and tilt states, this is where the races get interesting. Starting from the lean Democratic states, I don't think there are many lean Democratic states. Connecticut is definitely one of them, though. Now Lamont is not the most popular incumbent, only won by 3.2 points. In fact, did not crack 50% of the vote, but I still expect him to win re-election nonetheless. Let's see if we have any more lean Democratic states. Minnesota, it might be lean, it might be tilt, but Tim Walz did win by 11.4. I'm going to put it as lean for the Democratic Party as of right now, but for the Republicans on their side here. So the first state I'll put as lean Republican, the state of Arizona, will likely be lean Republican. The Republicans have nominated Kari Lake. The state is generally a more moderate state, but just given the national environment, come on, the Democrats are not going to do too well in the state of Arizona, given the high gas prices, the high inflation, and all that stuff. Arizona's going to go lead Republican. Georgia as well, I think this race will not go to a runoff between Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams. We already have the primary there. Kemp won last time by a tilt margin, but I do expect the national environment to end up helping him to win by a lead margin. And then we have the final 5 states here. These states I do believe will be the closest states of this election. We know the Republicans have controlled the majority, but exactly how much are going to be up to the final 5 states. Starting with Nevada, I do have this race as tilt for the Republican Party. Steve Sisolak did not win by a large margin at all. He only won a plurality of the vote, not a majority, and Adam Laxalt was just not running the best of all campaigns. So Steve Sisolak was able to win, but again, it was a close margin in a Democratic wave. The state of New Mexico, this race is a pure toss-up period. There's a lot of things going good for the Democratic Party. Given that it is the state of New Mexico, but the Republicans, they have the national environment. They have a pretty good candidate that won with 60% of the vote as a non-incumbent in the Republican primary. Michelle Lujan Grisham, although won by a margin of 14.4% last election, now has quite a few scandals. This race will come back to it later. The state of Michigan, I do have this race as a tilt Democratic state. This is a flip from my previous projection, given all the stuff, the disqualification of James Craig, and another few of the Republican candidates, the arresting of one of the the front runner of that race after James Craig, and the couple of other candidates that were disqualified from the ballot. That candidate also got arrested by the FBI. So yeah, this race is not looking too good for the Republican Party. Again, they'd have the national environment, but is that going to be enough? My answer, probably not. So I'll put that as a tilt Democratic state. Going to the state of Pennsylvania, I still have this race going to the Republican Party. It shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Doug Mastriano, although maybe slightly more conservative than the mainstream, than some of the voters that he needs to win for. He needs to win in order to win the state. He is still the Democrats are just pretty much screwed given the gas prices, the inflation, and although Roe v. Wade is not going to help the Republicans in the midterms, it's just going to be a less important issue. After the passing of a couple months, this issue is going to be largely forgotten. So for the state of Maine, I do have this race as a tilt Democratic state. Janet Mills should be able to defeat Paula Page. Gonna be a very close race, but I do think Paula Page will end up losing in the state of Maine as Janet Mills was able to win this race by 7.7 percentage points. I think overall she'll be able to win this race very, very narrowly as well. So for New Mexico here, I'm still going to play as tilt Democrat. Reason, I just don't want to leave it blank, and the state is still a very Democratic state, so I'm going to just leave it as tilt Democrat. It's really a pure toss-up, but I'm going to just leave it according to my previous projection. Thanks for watching today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys all tomorrow or my next video, and bye.